Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King. Today is Thursday, October the 10th, 2019. It's 4 p.m. in New York, 1 p.m. Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London, 5 a.m. in Tokyo, and 6 a.m. in Sydney, Australia. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy that I'm back with Alex, and she's got her hair in, and she's got her unicorn headphones on, and she's got her dog with her. She is set for anything.
I'm good to go.
Good to go. I love it. And she even has the topic figured out. That's one of the other things I love about you. You always have a topic. I can have any kind of a day at all. It doesn't matter what time. You've got a topic ready. And I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
I mean, that's one of the most important things, being appreciative, right? You know, so
true.
It's an opportunity to say, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you appreciating me.
Well, good. So, speaking of appreciation and self-esteem, the two actually do go together.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, for a number of reasons, but I think probably the one that comes to my mind first and foremost is that you can't really have self-esteem until you do a lot of appreciating of yourself.
Yes.
Not to mention appreciation of others and things in your life and so forth, but appreciating yourself is critically important. It's something that I learned. Well, I think I'd known it for many years, but I got it kind of shoved in my face a bit when I was doing mirror exercises. Because mirror exercises, you're doing it right to your own face, you know. You can't really escape it that way. And in the course of that, boy, oh boy, it didn't take long before I started to feel different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I originally did those mirror exercises because I wanted to shut up the negative self-talk going on in my head, which they did. It took about 30 days, but it did happen. Mm-hmm. And in fact, for the first 5, 10, 15 days, it didn't feel like anything was changing. But after about that 15-day period, I began to realize I was feeling better about myself. The self-talk hadn't gone away yet, but I was starting to feel better about myself. And over the next few months, as I kept doing it, wow. I mean, it was easier for me to relax. It was easier for me to let stuff go that came my way that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. Everything became easier.
Yeah.
And I think that all happens because the self-esteem goes up. And my self-esteem did go up. I mean, that's a funny thing. You're building your self-esteem, but you don't really have a barometer, a little meter saying, well, your self-esteem went up 25%.
Facts. That's true.
Right? You know. So sometimes it's kind of hard to notice it if you aren't really paying attention to what's going on. Yeah,
usually you have to hear it from somebody else.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like when you don't realize you lost or gained weight until you take a picture and then you see it for yourself and you're like, oh, yay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we were watching a movie last night. What were we watching? Oh, no, it wasn't a movie. It was an old episode of The West Wing, and John Goodman was on it. Mm-hmm. And Louise had mentioned that he had lost a whole bunch of weight, so I went and looked it up, and wow, he really did lose the weight.
He did, yeah.
Well, I'll bet you while he was losing it, he didn't feel it.
No.
I'll bet you he didn't. He had to look at the contrast of before and after in order to really notice.
Yes, you definitely do. Yeah.
Because these are all things that happen over time. We build them over time.
Yeah, when I gained 300 pounds, I didn't notice it until...
300 pounds, really?
I was at 300 pounds, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And
how long did you have to go through taking it off to get it down to where you are now?
Well, I did the gastric sleeve surgery.
Oh, okay.
So, but to get down to where I am now, it took about a year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And during that time, could you tell? I mean, were you looking? Because people with weight issues are well known for constantly checking the scale.
I was constantly checking the scale, and then I realized, and also my brother's a physical trainer, so he lets me know the ins and outs and everything, and he's like, weighing yourself every day is not going to help you because, there's different factors to your situation. So you look for your jeans changing sizes, look for, your clothes shrinking, basically, but don't worry about what the scale says because that has different factors. But I didn't notice. Everyone was like, oh my God, you're losing weight. You look so great. How much weight did you lose? And I'm like, I don't feel like I lost anything. Like I'm looking in the mirror seeing the same person. So yeah, it's like reverse body dysmorphia. Well, it's not even a reverse body dysmorphia. It's just body dysmorphia anyway. Mm-hmm. Like you just don't see it, what other people see. I see it now.
Which is great.
But it also goes along with the self-esteem thing. The whole time, whether I weigh 300 pounds or 200 pounds, I had high self-esteem the entire time, so I didn't see that there was a problem. It was only because my doctor was like, health-wise, we should really look at this.
Ah.
Yeah.
Do you think that what you felt was a pretty high level of self-esteem helped you to lose that weight?
No, I don't feel like it helped or hindered either way.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't think about that, but no, I don't think so.
So that raises and kind of begs the question, where does self-esteem help? Why bother to build it?
Well, the most important thing about self-esteem is knowing that it starts with yourself. You can't depend on anyone else to raise or lower your self-esteem. So, I think it helps. It helps you in the outside world. It helps you when a situation arises and someone tries to dim your light, and then you're like, wait a minute, no, that's not true. That's not me. I'm great. That's their problem. That's where I think self-esteem helps.
Okay. It certainly does help there, because you don't want to be building your life and evaluating your life based on what somebody else is saying about it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's definitely a good use for it.
Yeah, you got to remember who you are.
It's true. Of course, self-esteem plays a role in a lot of areas of life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, self-esteem plays a major role in if you're trying to get work. You have to feel good about yourself in order to get the kind of job you really want. If you don't feel good about yourself, the employer isn't going to feel good about you either.
Yeah, because it's like it radiates off you in your body language and your facial expression. So it's like if you're putting off this negative self-image, that's what people are getting. So they're like, ugh, I don't want to work with them.
Yeah. Makes a difference when it comes to personal relationships with that significant other. Or lack thereof.
Yep.
Because if you don't have that self-esteem, well, first of all, you're going to have a hard time attracting the person in the first place.
Right, because that is like a major thing. Like people who carry themselves well are a lot more attractive than people who are Debbie Downers.
Yeah, the way I thought about it when I was younger and trying to figure it all out was that self-esteem is really what creates an appearance of self-confidence.
Yes, definitely.
And people like self-confident people a whole lot better than they like people who have no confidence in themselves at all.
Well, you don't want to go into a relationship knowing that, okay, this person's really needy and he's going to need me to reassure him or her every 5 seconds. So nobody wants that.
Right. Yeah.
So
there's a reason why they call that high maintenance.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And it can work either way, either gender, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would even go so far as to say self-esteem makes a difference where our health is concerned.
Definitely.
I mean, can you think of a particular example?
I
can think of a few, but I just wanted to see what you had in mind.
Tell me yours and let my marinate.
Well, anytime that I've wanted to use conscious creation, using my focus and my ability to create using the power of my thoughts, the power of my mind on healing my body in some way. Every single time that I did that, I had to believe it was true. The only way I could believe it was true is if I could believe that I actually had that power. That requires self-esteem.
Okay.
If you don't have that self-esteem, you're not going to believe it. It's going to be a real uphill struggle trying to make anything happen. And I think the same thing is true with really anything else we're trying to attract. Sure, it's health, and yes, it's relationships, and yes, it's money, yes, it's jobs and career, yes, it's friends. I mean, I hesitate to say, but I don't think there's any area in life that you can attract what you want if you don't have sufficient self-esteem.
Facts.
Right?
You need it always and always.
So it's pretty important. It's pretty important stuff. And now, so let's talk a little bit about how to build it. I built it with mirror exercises, but I mean, what are your favorite ways of looking at how you did that? Because you already mentioned you had built up a pretty high level of self-esteem. How'd you do it?
I think it was years and years of I'm pretty lucky. So years and years of just people telling me how great I am all the time kind of sinks in. And then you're like, you know what? I am pretty great. So, I had it that way, but not a lot of people are like me and get that motivation day to day. And that's where self-esteem becomes very important, because you have to do it yourself. So, but there have been days where it's like, you're not really feeling yourself that day, and that's where I think the mirror exercises come in handy.
Yep, mirror exercises, meditations of any kind. I mean, almost any of the processes that people tout for being a conscious creator are great for building self-esteem. Because every single one of them that I can think of is directly involved in improving your own ability, one's own ability to focus on what one wants. Well,
yes.
How can that not be tied to self-esteem? I'm the one doing the focusing. Of course it's going to be tied to my self-esteem.
Exactly. Exactly.
It just one goes with the other. So the self-esteem piece is a pretty big piece to that puzzle. Yeah.
And also how you carry yourself is how you show yourself to others. So it's like, if you're feeling good that day, you might throw someone a compliment, and that's going to make their day better, and that's going to raise their self-esteem. And, and it just keep paying it forward, and it keeps going and going and going throughout the world.
So you brought up an interesting point. You can help build somebody else's self-esteem.
You can, but also at the same time, don't rely on someone else to build your self-esteem.
Good point.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you do that?
Then you become needy. And desperate and thirsty, and it's gross.
Oh, God, stay away.
And then it's like, I'm in a relationship with someone who needs reassurance every 5 seconds. I can't.
Yep. It's a challenge for somebody who doesn't have that self-esteem. So let's go back again to building it up. I mean, you kind of said you built it up over time. Was there anything particular that you did to build it?
No. I'm just blessed. I'm sorry. I'm not helping today. I'm just...
Well, look, Alex, I don't think you understand the gist of how this whole, helping the world works. You're supposed to come up with the issue, and you're supposed to have solutions. One goes with the other.
Well, like I said, I went during my days where I was feeling a little dark and not myself. I'm not going to say I tried to use mirror exercises, because like I said, my mirror exercises are totally different from but like anybody can use mirror exercises any way they want, as long as they work. So,
how do you do yours? Tell us about yours. I'm curious. Now you suggested that it's different from mine. I want to know what the difference is. This is interesting.
Mine is kind of how I interact with the world. So it's like, I throw myself a compliment when I'm walking by the mirror every once in a while. So it's like, okay, you're having a good butt day today. Good for you. Those jeans are looking smaller than they did last year. Good for you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Yeah, I crack myself up. Laughter is also a good way to build self-esteem.
Yes.
Because if you can laugh about the things that bother you, then no one else can bring you down. Because you already made the joke.
Well, plus, if you're laughing at the things that bring you down, you are reducing their power.
Yes, exactly.
Just the act of laughing at them is just going to make them less powerful, which means you are removing them. You're getting those resistances out of the way.
Yep, exactly.
I got to ask you, is there a connection between self-esteem and wearing unicorn headphones?
Nope. I just love the spark. I mean, you know what? You're probably right, because, like I said, I'm basically a rare breed. I'm very special. Therefore, I'm a unicorn. Therefore, I deserve unicorn headphones that glow.
Because I suspect a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, I'll say myself, I would not put on unicorn headphones. I wouldn't do that. Yeah,
you got to be bold and brave in order to do this live.
Yeah, no kidding. I give you credit for that. You'll never see me with unicorn headphones on, but...
Oh, all right. Well, I'm crossing that off your Christmas list. I was going to say we could be twinsies on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but okay.
Oh, well. No, I don't want to take away your shtick. I mean, you've got a identity pattern going on there. Everybody who tunes in and sees you on YouTube, they know, for years it's got to be Alex. So
nobody can take away my thing because, like I said, I'm very rare. I'm the only me there is.
That's true. That's a good self-esteem builder right there.
Yes, it is. Knowing that you're the only you that's out there. Yeah. Even if you have a twin, you're the only you.
It's a good thing to say in the mirror.
Yep.
And that reminder is a way of reminding our subconscious minds who we really are. Because I think that's another big piece to this whole question of self-esteem and abundance and conscious creation and so forth. It's understanding the role that subconscious mind plays in, what we attract and what we're not attracting, or what we're attracting that's the opposite of what we had in mind. A lot of that's going to be driven by self-esteem. How are you feeling about yourself? If you're not feeling good about yourself, how are you going to feel good about the thing that you're focusing on?
Yes. And how are you going to feel good about others, which is where trolls come from.
Talk about that for a moment.
Trolls are people that are unhappy with themselves, so they want you to feel how they feel. So that's what they do. They get their Twitter fingers going, and they start talking about you.
Nice. Yeah, that's very nicely defined. That's pretty much what trolling is.
Yeah.
I don't feel so good, so I'm going to go out and make somebody else feel miserable so they know how
But
I feel.
The sad part is they don't know they don't feel good. They just know that this makes them feel better.
Well, they know on a subconscious level, but you're right. Consciously, they're not aware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes all the difference because, if they had any awareness of what was going on subconsciously, and they don't.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be trolls. If they had paid any attention to what was going on subconsciously, first of all, they'd probably freak out.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't know what to do with it. If you don't have any kind of
sounding board
background, something that you can fall back on to understand what to do about the subconscious mind. It can be pretty a frightening prospect to even look at that stuff. I can remember back in the day when I really didn't understand anything about how the subconscious worked, and trying to work it out in my head. And I would talk to some people who claimed to be experts, and it wasn't like today where you can just Google everything. So,
right.
You had to play a lot of, okay, do I trust what this person is saying? Do I trust what that person is saying? Does it add up? Do whatever research you can possibly do on your own, which usually meant going to the library and seeing if you could find a book that said something about what it was that you were trying to do. So you were pretty much on your own trying to figure that out. And I, at the time, I didn't quite get it. None of it really made a whole lot of sense to me. So I can imagine somebody who's a troll who doesn't feel really good about themselves going out there doing their trolling, and not only not being aware of what's going on deep down inside, but even if something does pop up, not knowing what to do with it.
Right.
Because if you don't have the knowledge in the background, what do you do with it?
Yeah, how did you look at coaches back in the day when you had to use phone books?
How did I look up what?
Hold on. Sorry, someone's calling me.
Oh, okay.
I said, how did you look up life coaches back in the day when you had to use phone books?
Well, they weren't called life coaches.
What were they called?
Psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists. Life coaching is a relatively new thing. Life coaching, the earliest mention I can think of it is like 1980s. I can't remember anything before that. And even then, it was pretty weird. It was pretty woo-woo at that point to have a life coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, before that, it was therapists, and you couldn't trust the therapist either.
Why?
Because they didn't know what they were talking about either.
Wow.
That's why there was a huge emphasis at the time I was in college, which would have been late 1970s. There was a huge emphasis in psychology departments on what's known as abnormal psychology, which still exists today, But I'm pretty sure it mainly was occurring because that's where all the research was happening, and it was happening quickly. So it was a lot of new information. Everybody was they were psyched about psych. They were actually paying a lot of attention to this abnormal psych stuff because it was explaining things that, they had never known about before. Prior to the rise of abnormal psych, it was Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung and, a few like that. And that was it. That's about all there was, for the most part, to what was taught in psychology. But when they started doing, various kinds of psychological studies and so forth, which I guess they've been doing that all along, but they started to really pick up steam in like the late 60s, 70s, something like that.
Okay.
They gained prominence. They gained a degree of respect. And as a result, everybody wanted to use it. But because of that, all the people who were therapists during that time were just kind of winging it. They didn't have a whole lot to work with.
Wow.
So, there were no life coaches. You know who most people would go to? I would say most. A majority. I would have guessed that a majority of people would have gone to clergy at that time.
Clergy?
Clergy, yeah. If you had trouble with something psychological, subconscious, whatever, you'd go to a clergy member and usually get bad advice.
Yep.
Bad. But I'm willing to bet that's where the majority of people went, because there really wasn't what you have today.
Well, I remember in the 80s there was a spike in psychics.
Yeah, there was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were very, very woo-woo at that point. They were really considered to be out there. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the people who called them woo-woo. Well, I didn't use that phrase. I didn't know the phrase, but but I thought that way. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It was kind of picking up around then. I remember both my mom and my sister were paying attention to that stuff during that time period. My mom was a follower of, what was her name? Jean Dixon.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, she was a psychic, but she was also a psychic astrologer type. And
okay.
She did a lot of stuff, and there were others too. I can't even tell you what the names were because I wasn't paying attention to them.
Mm-hmm. My mom was a huge fan of Sylvia Browne.
Sylvia Browne, yeah. My mom really liked Sylvia Browne. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I think she was more of a fan of Browne now that I think about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My mom had all the books.
All of them?
I watched every episode of Oprah that she was on. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay.
So you were a little bit skeptical too at the time.
No, I was never skeptical but I was 12, so
you had other priorities.
A little bit, you know.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly your field of interest.
Not at the time, no.
I'm going to guess your field of interest at that time was friends and
bike rides and skin knees and
all that kind of stuff.
Yep, all the good stuff, which kids don't get today. They don't play outside like they used to.
Well, let me ask a question then. This ties into self-esteem. What role... Well, first of all, what's your reasoning for saying that that's true? And second of all, what role do you think that plays in the development or lack thereof of self-esteem in kids?
That's a good question. I don't think they play outside... Excuse you, sir. I'm talking. He's so rude.
He's usually pretty quiet.
He usually is. I don't know what he needs today. Stop it. He's being a ham for the camera. So I think a lot of why kids aren't playing outside these days has to do with video games and everything being in front of you and everything being on social media and interacting being on cameras and smartphones and tablets, as opposed to someone taking your stuff away and saying, go outside and don't come back until you skinned your knee. So that's the big difference between back in my day, back in your day, and back in today. So, but yeah, and that's also what creates trolls, is because people with low self-esteem don't have to physically show their faces to talk about other people and make them feel as bad as they feel. So they feel empowered by hiding behind the screen and saying what they have to say. So, yeah, that's it's also diminishing other people's self-esteem as well as not helping the person who's doing the self-esteem diminishing.
Okay, so you're taking the position that says that all this modern technology and the lack of getting out there on your bike is reducing self-esteem.
Yeah.
How do you see that showing up? What are the markers, the indicators?
I mean, unless you're physically like a YouTube tutorial person and your face is out there and you're getting comments and you're saying, oh, you're so pretty and blah, blah, blah. Unless you're hearing things, or like if you're a gamer and you're hearing, oh, you're so good at this level, da, 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 da. Unless you're hearing it, you're not, there's no opportunities for you to even think about self-esteem. Like it's a non-issue at this point.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, what are by the markers or the indicators, I'm saying, what are the clues that tell you that this is a problem, that this is actually creating issues?
Oh, well, that's the height of suicides due to social media interactions.
So you're drawing a line between self-esteem issues and suicides.
Yeah.
It's an understandable one. Yeah. And it's true, they have spiked, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Do you think that's the main factor, the only factor, one of many?
One of many. What
else do you think contributes to it?
I don't know, because that's such a big one.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even just suicides. It's just people becoming recluses due to the fact of what they're hearing and seeing on social media about themselves. And being convinced that must be the way that the world views them, as opposed to having enough self-esteem to go, okay, nice comment, bye.
What do you think of the role that many school systems are trying to play to intervene, so to speak, and to engage in things like anti-bullying programs and various attempts to teach, here's how to use social media more responsibly, or how to make a life and not make it all wrapped around what somebody else is saying online?
I think it's a good thing. I think we're taking a step in the right direction. However, I also believe it's easier said than done. To have a 12-year-old going through puberty here, whatever someone says about you on social media isn't always the truth, or isn't always, it's hard to believe at that point in your life, because you feel like these are my friends. These are my friends forever. They must be telling me the truth. If I knew then what I know now, let me tell you. I wouldn't do anything different. I wouldn't do anything different. However, I would probably be able to help the world a little better, I think. I don't know.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just have a better No, you know what? I wouldn't have a better insight. I have my insight. I have my perspective.
Okay. All right. So if I take what you're saying, and I think I agree with you, but if I take it at face value, then on at least one hand, there is a lot to be concerned about, and certainly a lot of parents are concerned.
Yes, as they should be.
The social media video game thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a background in alternative schooling.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one of the things that I learned through that alternative schooling approach, called the Sudbury School model, is the value of things such as video gaming. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't remember if you were part of the show or not, but there was one episode where Carlos Balasquide, when he was still co-hosting with us, brought his brother on to the show.
Yep.
Were you on that show? I couldn't remember.
I was, yes.
You were. So there's an example of how video gaming actually helped somebody tremendously to build self-esteem.
I'm not saying video gaming is the downfall of all self-esteem. I'm just saying this is what's going on online, and these are the reasons that the kids are online, and then this is what's happening based on that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, video gaming is awesome, and it's great it does help social skills as far as some of the points where you create a community around yourself, with, and you can make friends that way if you're not good at making friends in real life,
Which raises another interesting question, and this is one that has kind of haunted me just because my background was completely without computers. You had some computers later in your growing up life. Mm-hmm. I had none. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not entirely true. When I was in high school, I had a high school class in basic programming. That was my exposure to computers. But other than that little dabble, they were dabble. Literally, that's all it was a dabble. I mean, on top of the fact that I was one out of maybe every 500 people in the school who dabbled in it. There was a very, very small number of us who did anything with it.
Quite the small circle.
Quite a very small circle, yes. So, yeah. But if I had that experience at all growing up of interacting with people online, I'm kind of looking back and saying to myself, I wonder how I would have been either benefited by that or whether it would have held me back. And I don't know what the answer is there. The reason I don't know what the answer is because I came to realize just through my own experience, particularly in my 20s and early 30s, as I was trying to get out of all the mess that I had created in terms of being such an introvert and not having a circle of friends and all that kind of thing. I had to get out there. I had to physically get out into the world. It was the only option. And it was a good thing to do. I learned a lot out of that. I mean, it was kind of like ground zero warfare, in a sense. But by the same token, it was also very healing. It was both simultaneously. It kind of tore you down and built you up. And I don't know, I can't imagine how doing something online would have filled that in.
Well, look at us now. We're doing something online.
True.
Yeah. And how does that fulfill your life?
I have found a great deal of fulfillment in it. But I also know I didn't start doing it until I'd already built my self-esteem up.
Yep. Same with me.
I can't imagine myself trying to start this podcast 7 years ago if I was in the place that I was in when I was in my mid-20s.
No, it wouldn't have worked.
I wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't have been attempted, let alone not worked. It just would not have been tried. When you're as introverted as I was, you just don't even try. You want to hide. You want to get out of the view of people when you're in the place that I was in.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know what would have happened. Mm-hmm. All I know is what worked.
We only know We only know what happened and what we did.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow, he really is excited today.
He is. I think my mom's eating in the other room, and he smells the food.
Ah, okay.
So he's like, open the door!
Because he usually curls up in the corner. We don't hear him at all during the podcast.
Exactly. He usually sleeps through these things.
I know. It's strange. Well, that's okay. I guess he woke up.
He did.
Well, okay, here's an interesting question. Mm-hmm. Animals have certain levels of self-esteem.
I was going to bring this up. Okay. Yes, animals have the most self-esteem, especially cats. Cats have the most self-esteem of all, I think.
I
was going to say, raising your self-esteem, get yourself a pet, because they will tell you whether you're worthy or not.
Well, they came out with news articles this past week saying that you can increase your lifespan about 25% if you've had a heart history just by getting a dog.
Yeah, they bring joy.
Yeah.
They bring joy.
And they bring, what's the phrase?
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love, that's the one.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for reading my mind. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that unconditional love is huge. And cats will give you that, too. Almost any pet that I can think of. Actually, any pet I can think of, except perhaps, I don't know, maybe hippopotamus.
Lizard?
Yeah.
Who's got a pet hippopotamus? What part of Africa do you live in, and can I come?
Well, there was a girl in the 1950s who sang about it. She wanted a hippopotamus.
True.
You know, I'm just saying.
That's a classic. Hashtag hippopotamus.
But, yeah, short of hippopotami, it's pretty much true that any pet, any animal pet will help build your self-esteem. In part because, well, let's phrase that a little differently. It will help you build your self-esteem if you are willing to pay attention to the pet. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's got to go back. It's got to go both ways.
It has to. Yeah. If you're not willing to pay attention, you're not going to get anything out of it, which pretty much describes anything in life. If you're not willing to pay attention.
If you can't love a dog, no one can love you. Bottom line. Like specific people come in my house and my dogs don't like them. You're not good people. That's just how it is.
Well, it may not be that they're not good people. It's just that they're not the people you want to hang around with.
Which means they're not good people because I'm awesome. So, hello.
Okay, then I got to bring in another question here.
I got another answer.
In your mind, what's the similarity, and more precisely, what's the difference between self-esteem and arrogance?
There's a fine line. But you should be allowed to cross it every once in a while just to make yourself feel good. Every once in a while. Not all the time. Don't be obnoxious about it. But, let people know you're dealing with something pretty special.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what would be appropriate arrogance then?
I say where it goes. I say when you're at the confidence level, that's appropriate. When it gets to arrogance, that's when you become annoying. Like when you're talking about yourself 24/7, if you talk about yourself in the third person, that's arrogance.
No, it's royalty.
Which
we are not amused.
Just saying, hand in hand. Anywho, no offense, Meghan Markle, I love you.
Actually, I have to give kudos to both William and Harry and their spouses because they are breaking down all kinds of barriers. They
are. They are.
Which is really, really admirable.
Yeah.
They're getting some flack for it because that's what the British press does.
Yeah.
When you're in that press corps, you lose all sense of reasonableness.
Reasonableness.
It's like the paparazzi creed, right?
Yeah,
the creed is I will be as annoying as possible. I will get into the faces of my subjects as often as possible. There's like a whole mantra there.
Hashtag TMZ.
But no, seriously, the fact that the royals are doing what they are doing, they are making the royal family accessible, not just to the British public, but to the world public.
Yes, exactly.
And I give them credit, but I think the original credit goes to their mom.
Really?
Princess Diana.
Yeah, true. I think she started it, yeah.
She broke through all kinds of barriers and took a whole lot more flack than they've ever taken.
Facts.
She was just, vitriolic criticism of her constantly. But she smiled through it, and she just persevered and kept going, and she just broke down barrier after barrier. Mm-hmm. I give her a lot of credit. Maybe the paparazzi ultimately got her, but not before she did a whole lot of great stuff with her life.
Yeah, facts.
She left behind a legacy that is going to endure for generations.
Mm-hmm. Something I'll always remember. Yeah.
She's going to be remembered. Mm-hmm. She's going to have the same level of, I don't want to say notoriety, but it's the best word that comes to my mind. Mm-hmm. Say, Mary Queen of Scots.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
Well, you don't have to. The point is, it's a famous person from royal history. And think of any of the famous people. Marie Antoinette, people who are very famous for various reasons. She's going to have that level of fame for generations
Facts.
to come. But it's going to be for good reasons, which is a really nice thing.
Yeah. Right?
I saw a special. I think it was on HBO, but I can't remember for sure. But anyway, it was a special where William and Harry were interviewed on an anniversary of their mother's death. I can't remember exactly which.
Yeah, I think I did see that. Yeah.
See that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were just talking about all the different ways that she had influenced them, but also the things that were important to her, the things that she had championed, and how those part of her legacy was those championings carrying on after her passing. I mean, the one that comes to my mind is she was a major advocate of banning the use of landmines.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Big. And within, the last year or two before she died, I don't remember how the story goes exactly, but she ended up in a Eastern European country where landmines were still an issue. I don't remember which country it was. Maybe in Yugoslavia. I don't really remember which one.
Okay.
And ended up meeting two men who had limbs blown off by landmines.
Oh, wow.
And promising them personally that not only were they never going to be forgotten, but their cause, because they were trying to eliminate the use of landmines as a basic human right.
Right.
She was going to make sure that their cause would never be dropped.
Right.
Would be carried out to the ends of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And during this special, I think it was Harry is chatting with these two guys. The film crew went and found the two guys and translators and all that. And the translators were basically relaying how these guys are just going on and on about how absolutely blown away they were that this princess from Great Britain was not only championing what they were doing, but was making a difference. And it's a difference that continued to the day that they were doing that special, which was some 20 years later or something like that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I was thinking, wow, what kind of a legacy is that?
Facts. I didn't want to diminish what you just said by pointing out the pun you just used.
Oh, did I use a pun? Okay.
You said they were blown away.
Oh, dear, yes. Absolutely no pun intended.
I was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, you're right. I did say that, didn't I? Oops. Rewind, delete, go forward.
The internet is forever.
Oh, no. Anyway.
Oh, speaking of the internet is forever, even though that wasn't a good segue, but I'm doing it anyway. My dad joke of the day.
Uh-oh.
Ding, 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 ding.
We need to have special music for the dad joke.
Well, yeah, but I would have to press the button because...
That's true.
Yeah, I don't have buttons to press.
Okay. So what's the dad joke of the day?
Okay. So we all know the old joke that why was 6 afraid of 7?
Yep.
Because 7, 8, 9.
Right.
But why did 7, 8, 9?
I don't know. Why did 7, 8, 9?
Because you're supposed to have 3 square meals a day.
that.
I was like, let me find a math one for Walt. Oh my God.
That's cute.
Thank you.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Well, it certainly was square. Jeffrey says that's a math joke. He didn't even give it credit as a dad joke. It's a math joke, he says.
You know what? They can be both, Jeffrey. Don't discriminate. They can be anything they want to be when they grow up.
This is true. So let's get back to some self-esteem.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because that is the topic that you brought up, and it's a good one.
Thank you.
Well, actually, it's influencing the audio play we've been writing.
Yes, it is. Definitely. Hardcore.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a big part of it. And, well, people already heard what happened in the first episode. The second episode, you're going to hear even more about self-esteem issues.
And it's going to keep going because it's an ongoing, deeply embedded theme that's like low key, but it's going to come to a head.
I think that you probably agree with me. There's a good reason for that theme to be there because it is a part of many, many, many people's lives.
Exactly. Even if you don't even notice it, you might listen to the podcast and go, oh my God, that's me.
Mm. Yeah.
Or you will find yourself in one of these characters. Guaranteed.
We were, we've been recording the second episode, of course, and we have another recording session scheduled right after the show, actually.
Yes.
And, during the last set of recordings we did, which was 2 days ago.
Yep.
At one point, Krista was doing Nancy's lines. She was kind of doing self-talk, bouncing from one explanation to the next, and you could just hear in there how she was just wrestling with her own lack of self-confidence. This poor Nancy was just she couldn't understand why what happened in episode 1 happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that reflects what a lot of people go through.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So, I mean, I look back on my own experience, and at the time that I was going through my experience, I thought I was pretty much the only one. Mm-hmm. I suspect a lot of people end up feeling that way, but boy, oh boy, this is not the case at all. We're talking about millions of people having not the same experience, but
similar
related to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All because of lack of self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It manifests in many different ways.
So let's talk a little bit about how we can build self-esteem up. I know that you had lots of positive reinforcement as you were growing up, so that's where yours came from. But it actually can be built. I mean, that's what we were talking about when we mentioned mirror exercises, for instance. Meditation is also a good way to do it. Probably the big advantage to the mirror exercises is the fact that you can use that to get that negative self-talk to go away. Mm-hmm. And
that's a big thing. The negative self-talk is huge.
Yeah. It can be almost borderline frightening.
Yeah.
Once you realize that it's there, and then you try to turn it off, it doesn't turn off.
No.
And you start to become overwhelmed.
Then you start externalizing it, and then you're like, oh my God, if I think this way, then everybody else must think this way about me. So then it's like, it's a vicious circle. It keeps going and going and going. And it's like, I'm not going to say nothing can help you at this point, but you gotta find that shovel and start digging.
Yeah, right. Because ultimately, what you're up against is your own subconscious mind.
Yeah.
But that's what the negative self-talk is. It's the subconscious mind just replaying those old tapes that you built up over the years.
Yep.
And saying, okay, this is what you built up here. I'm going to play it back for you.
Exactly. At 3 a.m. when you're trying to sleep. Yes.
That's right. 3 a.m. All of the worst possible times for it to play.
Oh, yeah.
It never plays when it's a good time.
No, never. Why would it do that? It wouldn't be negative if it was.
Well, it couldn't do that because it can't. You can't be focused on negative thoughts when you're feeling good.
Facts. That's why you always need to be feeling good.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's our first clue. How do you stop the negative self-talk? How do you build up the self-esteem? You focus on what feels good.
Yes.
And there are a lot of things we can do with that. Mm-hmm. We can select activities that feel good.
I was just going to say that.
Such as what?
Such as, find a hobby that you enjoy or something that you think you're really good at and start to excel at and find different ways to branch yourself out there so other people can enjoy you enjoying your hobbies and things of such. Join Facebook groups of things that you like, and so you can talk about things in general. Like, I'm a part of a lot of my favorite TV shows have groups, and then we get to talk about the episodes together, and why do we like this character? Why don't we like this character? And, it's just good fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's all true.
Yeah.
And, in fact, anything that we do that feels good is going to be a self-esteem builder.
Yeah, but some things you do that feel good aren't always good for you.
Talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, let me find something PG.
Well, it can even be X-rated. Just don't get into graphic detail. That's all.
Okay. No, I'm not even going to say that. No. Okay, yes, I will say this. Drugs sometimes make people feel good, but that doesn't mean it's good for you.
Well, here's the interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Do drugs really make you feel good?
In the moment, yes.
What I think they ultimately end up doing is they make you feel numb.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know, but
well,
from what I've heard.
I would know, because I was a drug user when I was quite young.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's exactly what they do. They numb the pain.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, the problem is still there once you sober up. So
exactly. It's a temporary tranquilizer.
Yeah, temporary tranquilizer. Like that. Hashtag.
And so I guess in one sense we could say, yeah, it does make you feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is how I ended up quitting drugs, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the whole pattern, it also ends up making you feel worse. So you feel a little bit better, and then you feel worse.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same as where you were before, worse than you felt before.
Right.
And it's noticing that. Noticing that is how I gave up drugs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's how I was able to convince myself to quit cold turkey. Because when I saw that pattern, I realized I don't feel better. Yeah, I did for a moment there.
Yeah.
But when you take the whole thing together, I actually feel worse.
Right.
And
but not everyone can see that.
Behind. Well, you have to look for it.
That's with pretty much every addiction in the spectrum.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You have alcoholics, you have sexual addicts, you have all kinds of addicts, and they all feel good in that moment, and that's what keeps them doing what they're doing.
Which raises the interesting point that an addiction is literally nothing more than a choice. And that's a hard that's actually a harder concept.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Much easier to swallow.
No pun intended.
Yeah. But it's true. It literally is true. And if you can come to terms with that, that will help you break an addiction real fast.
True.
I think what we're really talking about here, when we talk about self-esteem, what we're really talking about is self-empowerment.
Yes. Say it again. For the people in the back.
Giving yourself that ability to believe you have the power to accomplish anything. Not just some dream job, not just some wonderful career. You can accomplish literally anything.
Yes.
Just by deciding to look at whatever you're dealing with differently.
Right.
So truly, building self-esteem is about changing our perspective.
Yes. Which aren't all our podcasts about changing perspective?
Well, yeah. That's why we call it the Daily Dose of Happy. Your Daily Dose of Happy is about changing your perspective.
Facts.
That's exactly what it is.
Which reminds me, there's a comedy special on tonight I have to watch.
A comedy special? Well,
yes.
Comedy is a way to raise your vibration and get into a better self-esteem, so share it.
Dion Cole, Cold-Hearted on Netflix. Yes.
Be there or... No, that's an old phrase.
Yeah, it is. And it's on Netflix, so it's always there. So
it's always there, right, yeah. That's true. Boy, there's something that disappeared. It used to be you had to, if you had a program you wanted to watch, you had to be there when it was broadcasting. That's
or you missed it forever.
Well, not forever, because reruns are forever. But, yeah, that's gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
I mean, it used to be that certain nights at certain times was for a certain show, you know?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Nope. Now DVR is whenever you want it.
It's good because, among other things, it means you don't have to wait around for a particular time slot to start building your self-esteem.
I mean, you do and you don't, because it's got to come on for you to enjoy it. So you do have to wait, but at the same time, you can save it. for when you're not feeling so good.
We live in the information age.
Mm-hmm.
We are overwhelmed with information. We are practically obliterated by information. There's just so much of it. So it's not like you have to wait around for a particular thing to come into your orbit before you can start working on your self-esteem. There are options and opportunities all over the place.
That's true.
Speaking of which, we want people to be subscribers because that's an opportunity.
That is an opportunity, and here's our opportunity to talk about it.
All right. So let's reverse the order. Let's talk about how to see us first, and then we'll talk about how to listen to us, listening only.
All right. If you want to see us in my wonderful headphones, you can go to YouTube, search LOA Today podcast videos, and once you see these giant headphones or anybody's smiling face, you can go below, hit the red subscribe button. Next to the subscribe button, there's a little silver bell. Make sure you click all so you will always be notified when we're live. And,
of course, we want you also to listen to the podcast, which, by the way, in many cases is actually the better solution. As much as we love it when you are watching us and interacting with us on the live stream, like Jeffrey and Some Dude and Jenny at times and Lava Lava and others are doing.
Some Dude?
Some Dude, that's what his name is.
What is Some Dude saying?
He's saying good evening. Well, hello. Good evening.
Hello, Some Dude.
That's great. Glad you could join us. But, I just lost my train of thought on that, so I'll have to go back to the beginning.
We love when you interact with us on the live stream.
Oh, yes, we do love that. But it's even easier to catch the Daily Dose of Happy if you can just listen to a podcast, because you can carry that with you anywhere. You don't have to be sitting in front of a screen. So, it's coming in on your phone. You can either just put it on the phone speakers or, Bluetooth or whatever you use to listen, and do it while you're, listen to it while you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
While you're doing stuff around the house, while you're driving, while you're, going to class, while you're going to the job, whatever it is you're doing, you can listen to us on the way. And that makes it so much more available, I think. It's one of the reasons I like the podcast format. I think it's a good format for that. So, to become a subscriber, if you're not yet a subscriber, please just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. You'll find instructions right at the top of the page for becoming a subscriber. You can also find us on all of the major platforms. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're on Spotify, we're on Pandora, we're on, just name it, we're on it.
We're everywhere.
But if you can't find it, that's where you go to the website, loatoday.net. You'll always find it right there. And once you subscribe, all of the wonderful programs come right to your phone every single day that we record them. So that's a great tool right there. It's a self-serving promotion, but it's also a great tool for building self-esteem.
Yes.
In fact, I promised yesterday I had Don Mangena come on. And I'm actually inviting him to become a regular. We're seeing if we can work out a schedule to join maybe you and me on one of our Tuesday, Thursday type things.
Okay.
So we're going to see how that works out. But I was talking with him yesterday, and it was, first of all, it was really fun. But second of all, I promised him that if he wasn't laughing at least 25 times during the show, then I wasn't doing my job. And that's true. We laugh regularly throughout the show. We talked earlier about how important laughter is in terms of building self-esteem. So that's a nice, easy way to get the laughs.
Exactly.
Right? Join in, and it's always G-rated. It's always fun, lighthearted.
Is it always G-rated? Not when I'm here.
No, even then, you always, you'll phrase it in a way that it's acceptable to a G-rated censor. Even if it's talking about something that the censor doesn't like too much, you'll always frame it that way.
We haven't been shut down yet, so.
We're not going to be because we don't go on the air.
No, we don't. The FCC don't bother me.
No, we set a standard. That's all. We set a bar to reach. Because I think that's important. So but there's a lot to be gained just by being a listener. You get that jolt, that shot, that little adrenaline boost of self-esteem just by getting that laugh every time. So. And we have the queen of laughs right there. So, if Alex comes onto a show and doesn't tell at least 25 jokes, I'm going to fire her. So,
I have a quota, people.
You have a quota, that's right. And we also like to include what the live stream listeners are saying. Jeffrey, of course, as usual, has posted a fairly extensive quote, so I thought I'd include it. He if you are having good thoughts and feelings, you can consciously work on some of the tougher subjects and smooth out those edges. Milk the good vibes while you have them.
Milk the good vibes. Like it.
That's good. Another hashtag there, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, but absolutely right. And really, that's the key. I mean, he prefaced that by saying changing negative self-talk can come with many tears, and that's truly okay. Big hugs on that. But then he said, if you are having good thoughts, blah, blah, blah. And that's really it. It's about changing our thought patterns. So literally anything that we can think of to do to just shift what we're thinking about ends up rewriting our subconscious memory banks.
Right.
It ends up changing our perspective. And over time, if we keep at it, if we keep working on ourselves, if we keep just going after it, keep picking what it is that we prefer over what we don't prefer, keep taking our attention away whenever we notice that we're focusing on what we don't like and saying, you know what, I am so sick of that television program. I don't know why I keep watching that television program.
I just did that earlier this week. I was like, nah, that one's canceled. I'm good.
Yeah. Every time that we do that, it's a victory.
Yep.
And that's really what we're doing. We're counting victories toward building self-esteem.
Yep. Cancel the negative thoughts.
Cancel them. You don't even have to cancel them. You just have to rewrite them.
Yeah, you can rewrite them. Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a really effective tool also. It's what Neville Goddard calls the pruning shears of revision. You take that old experience that you didn't like so much and you just change it in your mind. You become the script writer and write a new script.
I like it.
If you need help with that, Alex will help you. She's a good script writer, so... Interestingly enough, somebody posted on Facebook kind of along this line. She said, she was saying, I understand and appreciate the value of rewriting your story, telling it a story. And she was asking for suggestions from people, what kind of story should I write? And I saw that. I said to myself, that's really not the right way to go about doing it.
Yeah, that's kind of like your job. Yeah.
Exactly. No one can write your story.
No one can write your story. No.
So I think the advice I gave her was probably the quickest way to get there. I said, play pretend. Yeah. You played pretend when you were a kid, right?
Yep.
Anybody who was a kid at some point or another played pretend about something.
On some level, yeah.
Well, that's telling a new story.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to make sense even.
No.
It doesn't have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Nope.
It doesn't have to have a complete character development.
Nope.
It doesn't even have to have an interesting storyline.
No.
All it has to be is a different story. That's it.
You could be a new woman who walks down the street, and that's your story.
And that is a story. Mm-hmm. All by itself.
Yep.
Stories can be mercifully short.
Yep.
In fact, talking about Neville, that's what he used to recommend. He would create these little things that Cindy and I call vignettes, these little scenes, and make them really short scenes. For a guy who was trying to attract, he wanted to be an Arthur Murray franchisee. So the thing he focused on was shaking hands with the guy who was the regional director of Arthur Murray, congratulating him on being a franchise. That was it. Yeah. That was the whole story. So
one handshake.
It doesn't have to be very long. It can be pretty darn short. In fact, that's kind of fun. If there's a great way to start writing stories, or not writing, but creating your new stories.
Right.
That is, think of one little scene, just one, and make it something that you associate with what you like. I think a big mistake people make when trying to build self-esteem is they say, "Well, let's do it on something safe." So they think of something that they don't really care about, and there's no power behind that.
But if you don't care about it, nobody else will. So.
Well, it doesn't even matter what anybody else thinks. You won't care about it. If you don't care about it, you won't care about it. That's the big piece right there. I mean, you got to care. It's got to be important to you. So make it a story about something that's important to you. I mean, if unicorn headphones are important to you, that's got to be in the story. Yep. And it was. I mean, you made it part of the story. You talked.
Sure did.
How many episodes did you talk about getting unicorn headphones?
I think it was 3, and then they finally came.
They came. Yeah. Yeah, and it was. It wasn't a story that you told like, well, it'd be really nice if I. That was not the kind of story.
No, it was. This
I'm
is happening.
Unicorn. Yeah, I'm getting unicorn headphones. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And when I asked you where you're going to get them, you said, I don't know, but I'm going to get them. So, yep, unicorn headphones forever. That's what I say.
Exactly. Hashtag.
Okay, well, that was good. That was a good discussion. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Any spoilers we need to know about out in the entertainment land before we close off for the day?
All the CW shows are back this week, so the schedule is quite full. Flash was on last night. All the Arrowverse shows have begun. It's crazy out here. Oh, there was a very nice Luke Perry tribute on Riverdale. That was very sweet. Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, then, thank you for that. Thank you, live streamers, for all your commentary. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on Everybody Today. Goodbye, everybody.